In a new exclusive interview, Habs general manager Kent Hughes heavily implies that the Habs don't need superstar talent, as he goes on to say how it can be a detriment for the team long term. We're going to discuss whether we agree or disagree with that, plus some huge Habs injury updates as Harris and Harvey Pinard are going to be out for a while, and they make a somewhat surprising call-up, so you'll want to stick around for all that on this episode of Habs Digest. And before we get into the video, guys, I didn't ask this last video, I asked it a few videos ago, just leave a like for us right now. It seemed to really help push our videos to other Habs fans who want to see this news just like you. So if you could hit like right now, we'd really appreciate it. As we jump right into the video, we got just a huge Habs lineup update, Jesse. A lot of stuff went on today, and we got some unfortunate news to open up with, and that's RHP is out 6 to 8 weeks with an lower body injury. A bit of a surprise. He was injured, came back, played a game. Now he's out 6 to 8 weeks. And also Jordan Harris is out indefinitely with a lower body injury. He will leave the team today to undergo further testing. The team will recall a player later today. And who was that player? Well, it was Mattias Norlinder. A day after calling up Jayden Struble, the Habs double up on the left-handed defenseman, and they bring up Mattias Norlinder. So, Jesse, it really seems like we might get to see Struble and Norlinder play at least one game each on this West Coast road trip. I mean, really unfortunate injuries, but it seems like it's time for the young guys to shine.
It really is, and we're choosing some of these young guys over calling up Joel Armia. So it's really showing we're in that next phase of of our development. We want to give these young guys their opportunities, which I think is a great call. Obviously tough news for RHP. He hasn't had the start to the season that he would like. So this hurts a lot. But I mean, it definitely is an opportunity for Jesse Ylonen, who has been playing pretty well, which helps to kind of soften, some of the load from that a little bit. But I don't know about you, Josh, but I'm really excited to see Jayden Struble play. I'm excited for Norlinder coming up to be able to get to see him. Obviously with Harris, this is tough as well. Much like, in a lot of the ways the same as RHP, it's you feel like he has a little bit more than what he's shown so far this season, but it's really that next man up attitude. It's so great, as Habs fans, that we can be so excited to see these players, although it's these unfortunate injuries, that we got players that we're also excited about to get to see and for them to have their chance as well.
Well, this is part of the reason we have this kind of deep prospect pool. It's to fill these gaps when needed, right? And it's a bit unfortunate for Harris, who has not had the start to the season he wants, and now maybe the two guys who are the closest to jumping him in the lineup, at least until Lane Hutson's eligible to play, are coming up and both going to get a chance to jump him. And also with Xhekaj out, you got to think these guys are going to make the most of their opportunities. We saw some lines of practice that shows, Struble's already in, right? We're maybe not going to talk too much about the forwards. Ullinen, after playing a game on the second line's back down to the fourth. Top line, Newhook, Suzuki, Gallagher, hashtag free Sean Monahan. Let's put him up with Caufield and Slav. But anyway, the defense, Struble is playing with Lindstrom. And like I said, you got to think Struble and Norlinder are each going to get a shot at least once on this road trip. And, there were some analysts that said Jayden Struble and Harris, of course, have that connection. They went to the same college to play hockey. And there are some people that said that Struble has the higher ceiling while he didn't put up the points in college that Harris did. The intangibles and the mobility at his size with his physicality is tough to come by. So, I'm a little excited to see how he fares, Jesse. Do you think there's a real chance that he could stay up for longer than we think?
Well, the one thing I do think that he can, and I think the reason for that is that this guy's a absolute phenomenal athlete. Mm-hmm. He scored some of the highest testing in some of the testings for the draft. So just to say that, he's just an absolute physical specimen. So, of course, when we're talking about skills that translate into being an NHL player, being a tremendous athlete, being very strong, being physical, kind of filling, especially some things that this Habs defense need a little bit more of, not just the defensive guys, but being a physical defenseman, kind of fitting what we're looking for there, I think is absolutely great. So, I do see a world where, he's getting his chance and he can really make it stick.
Yeah, I'm super, super excited. But let's move on to this crazy interview. We got to talk a lot about this. There was an exclusive interview today, and Kent Hughes, well, he seemed to imply the team doesn't need more superstars, and we'll show you the context, because this was a really eye-opening interview with a Slovakian source, Sport.sk. Let's open with this. They asked him, there was many questions, but these are the ones we want to highlight. Are you satisfied with the current team? Do you feel you're missing a bigger star, especially in the offense? He said, well, we keep getting better, otherwise it wouldn't be a rebuilding phase. We have some good offensive players in the group, and we need more. Do we need a star? The Edmonton Oilers are sitting at the bottom of the standings with two of the biggest stars in the NHL. It takes more than that to win. He said, there's a lot of ways to rebuild, but the market, because of the history of Richard, Béliveau, Lafleur, Steve Schutt, there's a lot of people that want a star player. But our job is to take what we have in terms of draft and draft picks and everything else and try to build a team that can win. He also said, yeah, we're talking about how Ottawa hasn't made the playoffs in a while, Buffalo, Detroit, talking about whether the Habs might be behind. He said, no, everyone wants a Connor McDavid or Draisaitl. We'd love to have him, but two players alone have never won a Stanley Cup. So we'll see as long as we go along. Cap space is another big thing in hockey. When you have a bunch of star players, you don't have the ability to improve your team in the offseason as much as when you have cap space, you can do certain things. We'll see where it goes. Jesse, this is strange. And we know Vegas just won the Stanley Cup. Now they had some very good players and Jack Eichel, Mark Stone. I would consider those guys on the upper tier of stars. But it was an interesting quote to me. And I feel like a lot of Habs fans are kind of like, really? You don't think we need more superstar talent? What were your thoughts when you heard this?
I think that Kent Hughes, he convinced me once again, as that kind of great article, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Great questions. It's he's about building a balanced team. And I think that, he's giving examples of the common day in the NHL. He says, no two players win a Stanley Cup. And it's been something I've been thinking about a lot with the Oilers doing so bad. It's how do you think, when you have a player like McDavid and Leon Draisaitl on your team, how is it that you would actually be having so much difficulty? But it's such a team game. You need balance. I will say, it's Kent Hughes is trying to build the complete opposite of the Toronto Maple Leafs. He's looking for a really balanced team, because the problem is when you put all your eggs into one basket, say just in the offensive part of the game, if you need to make adjustments on the defensive end, again, that's difficult to do so. And I think that what Kent Hughes is trying to say, it's not that goal scoring isn't important, but it's just you need that balance. Very much the Vegas Golden Knights, they didn't have that one superstar, but like you said, they had a couple definitely star players, and you do need that. You need the goal scoring to win. But I think this is kind of encouraging for Montreal, because I think if we're able, we don't need that superstar. If we're able just to get more goal scoring, somebody we can put in our top six, that's going to help this team a lot. But what's so interesting, Josh, is Kent Hughes, he doesn't want somebody that's going to take the spot of what we have already. He's all about the long term. He really believes in this young core, and he basically revealed our strategy of why we got Kirby Dach, why we got Newhook, is he wants to add good players, but not the expense of taking the spot of these players that he really believes in can be good in the future.
Yeah, it's very true. And he also had another quote, thank you for reminding me. He said, they asked, the fans that really understand hockey, they realize you're rebuilding, but how long do you think it'll take? And when will they start demanding success? He said, well, they just want to see progression. And if, they're going to run out quicker of patience if there's a lack of progression. If they see the team's progressing and young players are becoming an important part of that, hope they continue to believe in what we're trying to achieve. And I agree with that 100%, obviously. But I think I'm taking the more cynical route on this, Jesse, and it's not often I do this. And by the way, I think I might even say that Jack Eichel is definitely on the verge of superstar. I think he's one of the top players in the league. It's tough to say, and they had some great playoffs from Jonathan Marsh or so, and anyway. But at the same time, when he's asked straight up, when he says, "Do we need a star?" I don't know. The Oilers have McDavid and Draisaitl. To me, it's it was an interesting response, because I was still expecting yeah, he's right. No two players have carried a team to a Stanley Cup. But and big team games work, but what teams it's a lot more rare for a team to win a cup without that really good top end talent. And so his answer to the question to me was yeah, I mean, he really believes in his guys, but as of now, it's that number one guy that we're looking for, we've mentioned before, maybe Draisaitl come 2025, maybe Elias Pettersson if he doesn't sign an extension with Vancouver, these 100-point per season kind of guys that can drive an offense. I feel, I don't know, maybe I'm being too cynical, and I'm sure he didn't mean it this way. We obviously don't have videos, so it's hard to come across in the way that he said it. It's just a quote. I mean, look, we're making almost a mountain out of a molehill here, but at the same time, I kind of wish he was we would really like one of those superstar level players once this team is ready to compete, and maybe we didn't hear that. I don't know. Am I being a little too cynical, do you think?
Well, I don't think that Kent Hughes is going to chase away Draisaitl or McDavid. In the article, he actually says it's when asked about, Boston, if they're kind of, or sorry, teams like Ottawa, the Red Wings, the Buffalo Sabres, are they further along in their development? Because they've been out of the playoffs, are they going to get in the playoffs? Not necessarily. It's we all want these players if they become available. And obviously, that would be a game changer. Sure. So I think that he's definitely, he's not scared of these type of players, but he understands that an organization, it's not built by one player, but it's really by the individual efforts of all of those players collectively. So I think it's a great point that it's when our prospects do well, and then when they succeed, this team succeeds as a result. And that's why we're seeing that progression. We are seeing the development. Why? Because we're seeing it from our prospects, especially, you know, in the lower levels. You know, it's like we see Mesar leading in the OHL. We see, you know, Sean Farrell, you know, Joshua Waugh, you know, leading the AHL and scoring, being at the top there. You know, so it's like when these guys take the step up, that tells you, okay, your development, it's going along the right path, you know. And I think it's like, we want that star player, but we just don't want to put all of our eggs like into one basket. But trust Kent Hughes, you know, he's going to pull some awesome trade and get us one of those stars one of these days.
Oh, I'm hoping so. And like we said, he has the assets to make one of the biggest trade offers in the NHL possible. Yeah. So, like, you got to think good things are coming. And obviously, I got full faith in Kent Hughes for now. We're going to see Slafkovsky. We're seeing him develop. We're seeing Reinbacher. He mentioned these guys in the article as well. Yeah, just a lot of stuff going on. But let us know down below. What do you think about these quotes from Kent Hughes? Do you think the Habs should go after another star? Do you think it should be sooner rather than later? I think we're kind of on board where it's like maybe in a couple of years, like, you know, a year or two, when the Habs are finally starting to turn the corner, then when you try to buy into your championship window, you maybe go for something. But hey, there's a lot of question marks still. Very interesting article. And yeah, we'd love to hear your guys' thoughts. But that'll do it for this episode of Habs Digest. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, subscribe to the channel. We're on the road to 9,000, 10,000 subs. You guys have been supporting us like crazy. We really, really appreciate it. I'm Josh Gosse, my co-host, Jesse Poirier. We'll catch you in the next one.